New exclusive videos are waiting for you on Boosty. You can support me and follow the link to subscribe to Boosty. Enjoy watching. Description: The blind Uchiha and the abandoned Jinchuriki. One-on-one against the world, each other, and themselves. Chapter 11. The rainy season ended, giving way to the summer drought. The earth dried out and cracked underfoot. The grass that had recently been juicy and fresh withered under the scorching rays of the daylight and acquired a yellowish tint. People took out their higasas and uchiwas, trying to get at least a little freshness. Even shinobi, accustomed to temperature changes and much more resilient than civilians, tried not to appear on the street without unnecessary need. And if they did leave the house, they did not move along the usual route along the roofs, but hid in the shade of buildings and trees. The sun was flooding the road with its blinding rays, the leaves of the trees were quietly rustling in the light wind, the cicadas were chirping. The new day promised to be stiflingly hot and long. The road ahead was not short, but this did not upset the young shinobi at all. Finally, they received a mission outside of Konoha, and a C-rank one at that. The mission of bodyguards is not about catching a stupid cat or cleaning up trash. Thoughts about upcoming adventures flashed through their heads. Ahead of them, Kakashi strode along the road, staring at yet another Ika book. The members of Team 7 once tried to find out what their mentor was reading with such enthusiasm, after which they blushed, turned pale, and could not talk to each other for a long time. Shame and natural modesty prevented them. At a small council, stuttering and looking away, it was decided not to touch such vulgarity until adulthood. Behind the commander, dancing from overflowing energy, walked Naruto, cheerfully saying something to the client architect. The man responded rudely and sarcastically, every now and then applying himself to a bottle of sake. The girls brought up the rear in complete silence. Sakura would have liked to talk to Sasuke, discuss the upcoming mission, the rude customer, and just gossip about new fashion and boys, but the sullen brunette was silent, lost in her thoughts. The pink-haired girl bit her lip. Why was Sasuke always silent? Why did he ignore all attempts to get closer, to make friends? Why did he not let anyone near him except that idiot Naruto? Haruno did not understand. Sakura admired Sasuke since the first years of the academy. Unbending, stubborn, proud Fuyu was one step ahead of everyone even when she was blind. The brunette never paid attention to the giggles and whispers that always followed her in the school corridors, did not give up if she could not do something the first or 10th time, did not stoop to humiliating excuses in front of teachers and classmates. She only curled her lips and clenched her fists, after which she stepped over another obstacle in her path. Sakura would like to have at least a drop of the confidence and inner strength that the most brilliant kunoichi of their course possessed, but in reality the girl understood that she was only an average link, rather mediocre, and without any distinctive features. Ino and Hinata were from famous, highly respected clans with innate abilities. Tenten, who studied in a parallel class, had started studying Fuin Jutsu and developing her own style a year ago, and Sakura froze in place. It seemed that her grades were above average, and she understood the theory very well, but something was missing. Sakura didn't know what. At the academy, there was an unspoken rivalry between the girls over who would be the first to befriend Sasuke. So deceptively fragile, as if created from the famous white glass of the sky country, Fuyu attracted people to herself no worse than a magnet. You wanted to touch her marble skin, hear her slightly hoarse voice, smell the fresh scent emanating from her hair, at least something to get a little closer. Similar feelings were caused by movie stars, whose posters hung on the walls of Sakura's room, distant, perfect in their artificially created images, and therefore even more attractive. For some reason, it seemed that just being near these people would raise your status, make you smarter, more attractive, and stronger. Sasuke, who was so similar to the people on the posters, was closer, and at the same time infinitely further than the famous actors. Naruto, who had the opportunity to be closer to Sasuke than anyone else, but used this opportunity so ineptly, infuriated me to the point of a bloody haze before my eyes. Sakura never took Uzumaki seriously. As a child, she heard a lot from her parents and friends that evil lived in the boy's heart, that he was the embodiment of darkness and cruelty, a demon in the flesh. There were rumors that when he grew up and became stronger, he would show his rotten nature and kill all the villagers, including women and children. Confirmed eyewitness accounts of sacrifices in the cemetery, eating people, and training in murderous techniques were whispered. Having studied in the same class for 6 years, Sakura did not notice anything demonic in Naruto, but there was plenty of idiocy, carelessness, irresponsibility, and outright sloppiness. Old, always washed and patched things, constantly scraped knuckles, and a stupid smile on the face caused an instinctive rejection in the girl, but not a blood-curdling horror. Stupid jokes, loud laughter, and frank disregard for the traditions that existed in Konoha since its founding irritated and caused an urge to hit him hard in order to hammer at least some brains into his empty head. Ridiculous declarations of love and invitations to a date seemed like a stupid joke. How could he hope that Sakura would go on a date with such a guy? At least he should have dressed decently. Sasuke also lived without parents, but always dressed stylishly and did not allow herself to wear falling apart things. For some reason, Sakura did not think about the fact that the budget of 2 orphans was common, and the money could be enough for high-quality new things only for one child. Uzumaki was always shouting about his dream of becoming Hokage, which made him seem even more ridiculous and absurd. An idiot, considered one of the weakest students, always skipping classes and barely doing homework, could not count on anything serious in this world. Sakura did not understand how Sasuke managed to endure these constant screams at home and sincerely sympathize with the girl, forced to live with such a neighbor under the same roof. Sakura has always admired Fuyu. Sasuke and Uzumaki despised Naruto, but when these two were together, something changed. Despite all of Naruto's stats, Sakura constantly felt like the weak link in their team. Haruno had seen them training together. Absolute mutual understanding, continuation of actions, a chain of complementary techniques aimed at achieving a result. It seemed that these two could communicate mentally across vast distances, so well did they understand each other. When performing any, even the simplest missions, Fuyu and Uzumaki acted in an inseparable bond. They did not even need to look at each other to know which way their partner would run now, and what jutsu they would use. Naruto ducked before Sasuke began to fold the cat on seals. Sasuke left the line of flight of the kunai before the next clone took it out of the bag. Different as day and night, during the fight they intertwined into a single whole, like the sign of yin and yang. Sakura remembered the training when Sensei Kakashi started teaching them to walk on trees. It was the first time the girl managed to show herself in a favorable light. She had one of the strongest chakra controls since her first years, so such an exercise did not cause her any particular difficulties. Naruto and Sasuke had a harder time. That day, they had another fight before they had even left the house, and their mutual discontent prevented them from concentrating properly on the task. The boys fell from the tree without reaching the middle of the trunk, swore loudly, and were constantly distracted, trying to start a fight below. Sensei did not pay any attention to the squabble, hiding from the heat under the crowns of the tree, while Sakura watched what was happening from the top. She wanted to help with advice, but for some reason she was embarrassed. At some point, Sasuke still managed to collect his thoughts, and the girl quickly ran up the trunk, firmly attached to it with chakra. About halfway down the road she stopped and looked back at Naruto demandingly. "Catch up! Come on! It's easy!" Fuyu didn't say a word, but Sakura was ready to swear that Uzumaki heard her. He chuckled, mentally calculated something, and ran after her, holding himself as confidently as his friend. They reached the top together. The pink-haired girl then felt especially lonely, although she did not understand what was going on. Deep in her own thoughts, Sakura didn't notice how 2 enemy shinobi emerged from a small, inconspicuous puddle behind her, ready to attack. The kunai reflected the sun's glare on their edges. QWIN! Haruno didn't even have time to get scared. A thin line stretched between Sasuke and Naruto's fingers, a few sharp jumps to the sides, the ringing of bells, a couple of blows, and the enemies, completely immobilized, lay on the ground. "Don't get distracted, Sakura!" Sasuke glared at her teammate, walked around her in an arc, and headed towards the captives. "So that's how it is." Kakashi thoughtfully rubbed his chin and looked closely at the customer. So, you deliberately misled the Hokage, hiding the rank of the upcoming mission in an attempt to save money. Do you understand that now we have every right to refuse to carry it out, even without returning the deposit? The architect twitched his cheek, but did not raise his head. He stared at the ground at the very beginning of the unpleasant dialogue, literally spitting out answers to questions, choking on despair from the feeling of his own weakness and helplessness. At first he tried to press on pity, weaving in his daughter and little grandson in and out of place, but quickly realized that with the shinobi this trick wouldn't work for Konoha. The black-haired girl snorted arrogantly, the boys seemed not to even listen, and the main one ignored her indifferently. Tazuna had nothing more to say. He had already given these shinobi all the information, and now he was just waiting for the verdict. His village didn't have money for stronger security, and without the bridge they would soon starve and die. Kakashi looked at his students. Sakura was still in shock from what she had heard and was clearly scared. Sasuke was expressing complete indifference to the commander's future decision, and Naruto was drawing a scary face in the road dust with a stick. Then he stood up, brushed off his dirty knees and smiled sunny. Sensei, let's go already, okay? It's hot and I'm hungry, and we still have a long way to go to Grandpa Tazuna's village. Kakashi chuckled, watching as Sasuke led the way down the road, towards the land of waves. No arguments, no additional questions, absolute trust in a friend and unquestioning submission to his choice. It seemed that the team was beginning to identify a future commander. Sakura silently followed her teammate. The land of waves was a cluster of islands with small villages located on them. The main source of income for the population was fishing and trade with neighboring countries, since it was impossible to grow enough food on small pieces of land. The same was true for livestock farming. This is where the whole conflict arose. For an island state, owning ships meant owning everything. The treasury, the government, the people. The rich ship owner Gato did not want to lose profits, the people did not want to become slaves. The bridge was the only way for them to avoid an unenviable fate. The seventh team reached the customer's village by evening, having encountered no more resistance along the way. This was disconcerting. It seemed as if the enemy was hiding somewhere nearby, waiting for the best moment to attack. Hatake mentally tensed up. The enemy was clearly smart and cautious, which indirectly revealed his great experience. Unlike the two on the road, sent more for reconnaissance than for a real attempt to kill the architect. Rank B or still A? What should he do? The house of the architect Tazuna turned out to be quite large and cozy. 2 floors, spacious light rooms, children's drawings on the walls. Despite the obvious poverty, the people living here tried to decorate and enliven their home as much as possible. They placed wooden figurines on the shelves, decorated the floors with beautiful ornaments, put pots with flowers and ikebana along the walls. It smelled of dried herbs and rich rice porridge. Probably, you really wanted to return to such a place when you had to leave for a long time, especially when you are greeted with such sincere smiles. The shinobi were given 2 rooms at once, one for the girls, the second for the male part of the team. Sasuke, who was used to falling asleep to Naruto's quiet snoring, wanted to be indignant and change places with the sensei, but at the last moment she kept silent. Sakura would clearly be uncomfortable in Kakashi's company. She had to resign herself and follow Haruno. Hearing Uzumaki's grumbling behind her, he had also gotten used to Sasuke's company over the years and did not want to change it. They were both kinesthetic in the way that most orphanage children are. They needed touch, gentle hugs, simple friendly touches. Unable to get this warmth from other people, whose hands were more often painful than tender, they threw themselves into each other's arms, hugging each other while sitting on the bed in the evenings and reading books, kissing each other on the cheek before going to bed, touching fingertips in the mornings, getting ready for missions or training. They got the rest and moral support they needed from these moments. Without the usual rituals, it was sad and lonely. Unfolding her futon and getting ready to sleep, the brunette looked longingly at the pink-haired girl. Tall, half a head taller than Sasuke, with long, well-groomed hair, neatly tied back with a red silk ribbon. Beautiful. Green eyes, like young foliage, framed by thick black eyelashes. She probably knows how to cook not only ramen, and what else do mothers teach girls? The girl buried her nose in the pillow. Why is everything so unfair? Why is Naruto always running after this fool who can't see beyond her nose? How is she, Sasuke, any worse? She herself didn't know what she wanted from Uzumaki. The same looks he casts at Haruno? The same words, declarations of love, compliments? But he does all of that anyway. They go to cafes together. Uzumaki constantly brings home flowers to kill the smell of geraniums that he hates, often says that Sasuke is beautiful and strong. He has repeatedly proven with his actions that Sasuke is the most precious person in the world to him. It's just all wrong. EXO. Not the way she wants? Is she dreaming? Fantasizing? It was just that he had always belonged only to her. Sasuke knew Naruto perhaps better than anyone in the world, understood the motives of his actions, felt everything that he felt. She admired him. She saw how much he was actually ahead of their entire graduating class in strength, talent, and maturity. Although formally a month older than Uzumaki, Sasuke had always been the youngest in their family, led, subordinate. She wanted to catch up with him. To go level, shoulder to shoulder, to stop feeling like an eternal burden. Here it is. That childish thing, from the last day of life in the orphanage, that haunted her for many years. Despite all her achievements at the academy and the laudatory odes of the senseis, Sasuke always felt like a burden, a weight that Naruto had to carry on her shoulders, a chain that did not allow him to spread his wings, a cage that limited his free movement. She wanted to free him from the shackles, and at the same time keep him close forever. To hold on. Not to give him to some brainless pink mop that did not even understand that there was no way for a puddle to appear on the road in such a dry summer. Sasuke bit her lip. She didn't want to share Naruto with anyone. Let him have other friends, let him find a common language with his father, but he had to love her, only her. She had to become stronger and prove to him that she was no longer his little sister, who needed to be taken care of forever, but a separate person. A girl. In the end, they were not related. The attack, as Kakashi expected, happened in the morning. After waking up and having a breakfast of lean rice, the shinobi team, together with the architect, went to the unfinished bridge to estimate the time for completing the mission, monitor the work process, and give the necessary orders to the builders. But there was no one else on the bridge except them. From below, from the surface of the water, a quiet grunt was heard. Zabuza Momochi, demon of the hidden mist, one of the famous 7 swordsmen of Kirigakure. Still, he was ranked A. Kakashi pulled down his headband and revealed his Sharingan. There was no point in playing hide and seek with such an opponent. The huge sword flew into the air. A wave covered the bridge, scattering the shinobi Konoha in different directions. A thick, dense fog began to slowly rise higher. Kakashi rushed into battle, while Sasuke, Naruto, and Sakura surrounded the architect, protecting him from possible attacks. Formation of the Manji, exactly as the textbook prescribed. Even the Sharingan needs time to calculate the enemy's actions, to begin to guess his movements before he starts to do them, to see the future. It takes time spent in battle. The shinobi dissolved in the fog, looking at each other. Zabuza has the advantage. He has been watching the enemy all day, but Kakashi has to find out everything by experience. It does not matter, this is not his first opponent. Breathing, pulse, barely perceptible trembling of the air. Only the clang of metal on metal when kunai are parried by a sword. Sparks struck by the collision. Jumps and somersaults, sharp dodges of counterattacks. The chain of actions becomes clearer and more predictable. The only bad thing is that the enemy has not yet used ninjutsu. You don't know what to expect. You need to hide, catch him off guard, force him to open up. Mistake. The water around is stronger than steel, you can't move. You shouldn't have hidden under it. Now the water is not an ally, but another enemy. The children are left alone, that's his mistake. Seeing that Sensei was trapped, Naruto and Sasuke rushed forward at the same time, without thinking, throwing an order over their shoulders to the confused Sakura to guard the customer. They ran to the edge of the bridge, froze for a moment, and prepared to jump down. The next step was cut short by a sharp cry, "Run! I lost, get out of here!" The echo spread in the morning silence. The boys hesitated. Run? But where to run? Abandon their mentor, their customer, fail the mission? It wouldn't change anything, they would die anyway, but as cowards who had turned their backs to the enemy. It was unlikely that Zabuza would let them go alive. The fame of this merciless killer ran far ahead of him. Not sparing his own, what would it cost him to kill 3 stupid children who got in his way? A clone emerged from the water, squinted, and threw his sword over his shoulder. The Simban clinked as it stuck into the wooden bridge, as if drawing a dividing line between Fuyu and Uzumaki. The boy and girl jumped in different directions. Let's play? A ringing, melodic laugh dissolved in the thick fog, penetrated under the skin, and rang somewhere in the back of the head, causing almost physical pain. Another enemy. Where did he come from? Ice mirrors began to grow around the girl, enclosing her in a kind of dome. 1, 2, a dozen. Too many. There are gaps between them, but not even a child can get through. The enemy dissolved in one of the slabs. What is this dome for? A kind of prison, a technique for holding the enemy? Naruto froze. Kakashi or Sasuke? What to do? The fog had already climbed onto the bridge. Kakashi and Zabuza, who had remained in the water, had disappeared from sight. What was going on there? Was Sensei still alive? How could they defeat such enemies without his help? Sasuke seemed to be thinking the same thing. She took a defensive stance, holding a kunai in front of her, and looked around, memorizing the location and angle of each mirror. The icy surface reflected the enemy's young face, no older than 16. A Saban flew out, which Ryu easily dodged, and the enemy disappeared again. So that's it. Run, Naruto. I can handle this myself. Get Kakashi out before we all get killed here. But Sasuke, still hesitant about what decision to make. This concern. Run, I said. Stop protecting me all the time. Just trust me. Exo, he resigned himself. He assessed the situation and came to the same conclusions. Okay, Sasuke. Don't linger here. Naruto cursed and disappeared into the fog. Sasuke looked around, trying to figure out where the enemy was hiding this time. Naruto reached Kakashi and Zabuza just as Momochi raised the throat cutter for the final blow. Sensei's face was frozen in some kind of doomed and sad regret. His hands couldn't even move in an instinctive attempt to avoid death. Uzumaki gritted his teeth and threw a kunai at the enemy without looking. Anything to distract, to draw attention to himself. Fortunately, he knows how to irritate like no one else. Shout something stupid and pompous, create a dozen clones, get into a stance, getting ready to attack. Staying on the water is the same principle as on trees, you just need to push off, not stick. It's easy to understand, put into practice without training only on instinct screaming that now is not the time for stupidity. Somewhere in the fog Sasuke is fighting. Sakura is left completely alone. It is unknown whether all the enemies have managed to show up. Without Sensei, they do not have a single chance to survive. Boy! Have you decided to die a heroic death? The kunai clanged, deflected by the sword, and splashed into the water. I will teach you to respect real shinobi, stupid child. The clone went on the attack. Sasuke was spinning in a crazy dance, reflecting the death flying at her from all sides. She moved like a fire goddess dancing in the tongues of scorching flame. Her whole body was arched, she could hear the wind whistling around her. The bells woven into her hair were ringing, her blue eyes were sparkling in the reflections of ice. It wasn't working. Not to mention winning, she couldn't even notice her opponent, instantly appearing and disappearing in the depths of the mirrors. Another needle pierced her forearm with pain. How many blows had she already missed? Her right leg was almost numb, her left arm hung like a whip, completely immobilized, a cut on her neck was bleeding. Her clothes had turned into beggarly rags, torn by sharp thorns and soaked in blood, sweat was pouring into her eyes. Dozens of broken saban rustled under her feet, but the enemy didn't have any fewer of them. Somewhere down there, his best friend was fighting an opponent who was immeasurably stronger and more experienced. Sasuke heard it. The echo carried desperate curses, splashes of water, sounds of blows. No, no, no! I won't give up, Naruto. I will go forward to the end, and someday I will definitely catch up with you. Her eyes were covered with an oily film. The first tomo began to spin, the enemy seemed to slow down. I will read your actions. Naruto grabbed his side and winced. The torn wound had already begun to heal, but it still caused sharp pain. The enemy was too strong. It was impossible to distract him with any tricks, at least with those that Uzumaki was capable of using. It seemed that Momochi was simply having fun, watching all the boy's attempts to overcome himself. Deceptive maneuvers, henge, cloning technique. Too fast a reaction and excellent analysis of the enemy's actions ruined all of Naruto's attempts to get closer to Kakashi. There were no weapons left in the shoulder backpack, everything had gone under the water in useless attempts to free the sensei, and the boy had not moved towards his goal. Inside Naruto, the fox pressed his entire belly to the floor of the cage, watching what was happening through the eyes of his Jinchuriki. The walls of the prison glowed with a soft, putrid light, huge tails beat furiously against the bars, a terrible mouth stretched into a grin. The terrifying chakra concentrated, intertwined into tight balls, seeped out in thin streams. Too early. This seal does not allow chakra to pass through while the boy is stable and able to reason sensibly, and distracting him in such a fight is pure suicide. Time runs differently in the mind and the outside world, but a second of confusion will be enough for the enemy. Exo. It is unlikely that the Ninetales will have enough strength to revive a body cut into two parts. For some reason, he did not want to lose his vessel. To gain freedom for the first time in his life, too. Not in this way. Well, are you tired already, little brat? Zabuza openly mocked, continuing to easily dodge blows and hold the water prison. At your age, I managed to kill 100 already, and you can't even handle a clone. Maybe you should consider leaving the shinobi craft? It's clearly not for you. Naruto gritted his teeth. We'll see who's a real shinobi. The last shuriken appeared from the backpack twice the usual size. Uzumaki unfolded the blades, spun the weapon on his finger, and jumped forward. The fight is not over yet. The girl fell to the ground, and Haku froze for a few moments, paying her respects. He had never had such powerful opponents. For the first time, someone managed to read his technique, tear him out of the ice mirrors and even wound him. The amount of chakra was rapidly approaching the critical point. His breath wheezed from his lungs, his wet hair stuck to his forehead. Sharingan, the ability of the legendary Uchiha clan. He had heard of it, but had never seen it before. If even such a brat possessed such power, then what could he expect from an experienced jonin? It was good that Zabuza-san neutralized the copy ninja so quickly. Haku was not sure that if their fight had lasted a little longer, his mentor would have been able to resist. The guy came out of the mirror and slowly walked towards his defeated opponent. Another needle appeared in his hands, the last one for this girl. One hit would be enough to end her life forever. The black-haired girl was still breathing, pressing her hand to the wound on her stomach, and quietly whispering something. Haku froze, listening. Forgive me, Naruto. I never managed to catch up with you. Sasuke. An electric arc pierced the heart. Rinnegan blossomed in the eyes. Sasuke. There's fog all around, you can't see anything. Which way did he leave her? Sasuke. Demonic chakra flowed, tearing apart the whitish curtain. A whirlpool of death began to swirl. Sasuke. Don't get distracted, boy. Naruto extended his hand, and the enemy was thrown aside, torn apart. The clone burst with a loud pop. Visibility improved significantly, revealing the original and the water prison with Kakashi imprisoned in it. His chest ached, throbbed, howled. No time for this fight. You defeated a clone? Well, you're not as useless as I thought at first. But that won't change anything, stupid child. There is no time. The internal chronometer counts down the last blows. It seems that you are not just late, but already late, having lost everything in the world. Right hand up, palm open, directed towards the enemy. Words emerged from memory, as if they had always been there. Shinra Tensei. Zabuza was thrown aside, hitting the water with a powerful blow. The water prison fell, freeing Hatake from captivity. Now it's up to you, Sensei. Naruto doesn't have time for this anymore. He broke into a run, jumping over the waves. Run as if it were the last time, rush forward along the path indicated by the heart, suffocate with fear. Sasuke. How many seconds does it take to kill an immobilized enemy? No more than one, if you don't let doubts take hold of you. Haku didn't allow it. Zabuza-san was the most important person to him, the one he lived for. These people were preventing his dream from coming true, which meant they had to be eliminated. First this unconscious girl, then the second, and then the architect. With the boy and the Jonin, Zabuza-san will cope on his own. The Senbon, intended to hit the opponent's vital point, did not have time to slip from his hand. The ice mirrors cracked, flying into small fragments, and fell to the ground as broken glass. What attacked Haku was not human: claws too long, fangs too big, chakra of hatred that was incomparable to anything. The boy did not even have time to react when he received the first blow, sending him flying for a long time. Too fast, blurred movements. The first blow, still in the air, was followed by a second, tearing his chest with claws. Ribs cracked, digging sharp fragments into tender insides, pierced a lung and almost reached the heart. The third blow came immediately after landing and tore an artery in his neck. Thick dark blood gushed from the wound, flooding his kimono. Haku raised his blood-stained hand to his lips and stared at his enemy in disbelief. What are you? My throat started bleeding. A boy. But completely different, changed beyond recognition. His mere presence gripped the heart with fear. How could this be? Zabuza-san. Haku created another mirror, wanting to move to his mentor, but did not even have time to touch the smooth surface. Another blow, the torn-off hand flies to the side. Fast, deadly, merciless. Fury and madness splash in strange eyes. Each blow reaches the target. He does not even use techniques, just kills to death. Haku broke off the bridge and flew into the water, but the merciful waters accepted the already dead body. The demon in the form of a child got it in flight, pierced the chest with a clawed paw and pulled out the heart. The last thing Haku heard in his life was the distant Chidori! Naruto slowly approached Sasuke and dropped to his knees, not daring to touch the wounded body. Pain and a dull weakness pulsed through his veins, tears streamed down his cheeks in thin streams. It was his fault. He shouldn't have left her alone. He should have pulled her out of the icy captivity right away, turned his consciousness inside out, calling on demonic chakra, learned everything possible about this Rinnegan back in Konoha. He was too weak. He didn't train enough, didn't put enough effort into perfecting his techniques, didn't have time to learn enough. Idiot. Useless, good-for-nothing cretin. Quiet footsteps were heard. The sensei returned to the bridge, having defeated his opponent. The fog had almost completely dissipated. Kurama. Silence in response. Waves beat against invisible walls. Kurama! The heart beats dully. The buzzing in the ears grows. The nails dig into the palms, breaking through the thin skin. Kurama! On the highest note of a wounded soul. I can't, Naruto. The fox himself seemed to regret having to say those words. I can't cure her. But why? After all, last time. He closed his eyes, holding himself back from the final spiral that would throw him into hysterics. The eyes, Naruto, the last time I healed the eyes that belonged to you. Kyubi sighed and laid his muzzle on the ground. The tails, which had been in constant motion until then, sank smoothly into the water. While I am in the cage, I cannot heal anyone except my Jinchuriki. She is not you, not a part of you. I cannot help. I am sorry. How do I open the cage? Naruto grabbed onto the only thing that could help him at that moment. The fox froze. Was this kid really serious? Are you crazy? Have you forgotten who I am? Have you forgotten what I did to your mother? He growled angrily, trying to bring her to her senses. To sober her up. The boy waved it off as if it was something unimportant. I don't care. Tell me how to open this cage, save Sasuke, and do whatever you want. You can then blow this entire world to pieces. Maybe that's what he needed all along. Kurama remained silent. It wasn't even that the wish alone wasn't enough to open the cage, and they didn't have the key to the lock. He just felt that it was too early. This child needed him exactly where he was now, and he needed the child. Something like a divine plan, a secret meaning laid down by his father, Rikudo, a life purpose. Sorry, Naruto, I can't help you. But why? Why? Angry, desperate tears streaming from the eyes and falling on the bridge where it all began. Kakashi limped towards Sasuke lying on the bridge, not paying any attention to the bleeding wound in his leg. Sakura was sobbing softly, continuing to guard the architect frozen in horror. Naruto, frozen in one pose, caused a feeling of unbearable shame and grief in his chest. It was his fault. He had not prepared the children sufficiently for the trials awaiting them in the big world, had not foreseen all the dangers of the upcoming mission, had foolishly fallen for it, leaving his comrades to die. Now it was time to look his mistakes in the eye step by step, ignoring the pain and fear that gripped his heart. Some kind of fuss was heard behind him, and at least 40 new enemies appeared at the edge of the bridge, led by their employer, Gato. Who cared? Kakashi only glanced at them with an uninterested glance, slightly turning his head, and continued on his way. There was almost no chakra left. Naruto rose from his knees, turned to face his new opponents, Rinnegan in his eyes. Hatake noted it mechanically, as if he had made a mark in his memory, but said nothing. There were no words left. Uzumaki, stamping his steps, passed by. He was shouting something, but the meaning eluded the captain. His consciousness was slightly fuzzy. Kakashi walked up to Sasuke, sat down next to him and pulled the girl onto his lap. He pushed the bangs off his pale, sunken face and placed his hand on his chest. Green chakra flowed through his palm, and a quiet buzzing sound was heard. Iryo Ninjutsu, the basic level, the minimum that all A and BU studied. It wouldn't heal serious injuries, but it could patch things up a bit, allowing the wounded to be carried to the hospital. A desperate and most likely useless attempt, an action aimed at calming one's own conscience rather than at real salvation. There was no pulse, the chest didn't rise, the heart didn't beat. Somewhere behind him, terrible screams were heard, the crack of breaking bones, the ringing of metal. Sakura was screaming, tearing her voice, calling Naruto. Kakashi did not turn around, continuing to send chakra and peer into the exhausted face. How Fugaku could throw away his child? How could he consider her a burden, a marriage, a piece of trash that could not do anything? How could he sign the documents to renounce her and hand her over to an orphanage? Couldn't one of the richest clans in the Land of Fire find a way to do what a poor orphan from an orphanage, Uzumaki, did alone? Naruto? If not restore her sight, then at least warm her, give her a decent education, help her find a place in life where even a blind person would be comfortable. She would never have become a shinobi and would never have met a little demon. She would not be dying now, lying on dirty wet boards. She would not be paying with her life for someone else's greed and arrogance. The chest under her hand trembled with the first heartbeat, long eyelashes fluttered. Inhale. Really? The girl coughed. Naruto! Kakashi looked back for the first time at what was happening behind him. He shouted loudly, desperately, at the top of his lungs. Naruto! She's alive! The boy stood alone among the corpses lying on the ground, swaying slightly, wounded, with his head down. The battlefield was littered with broken weapons, mangled bodies, and scraps of fabric from torn clothing. He turned around at the scream, still not believing what he had heard. She's alive, Naruto! Sasuke is alive! Kakashi himself didn't understand at what point the tears started flowing. Alive, he repeated more quietly, more for himself. Uzumaki smiled. The construction of the bridge was going on for the third day at a rapid pace, thanks to the hundreds of clones created by Naruto and helping with the work. The boy literally spent the night on the piles, not going into the house to eat, sleep, or even to praise Sasuke. All day long he carried boards, worked with a hammer, laid stones. By evening he would fall from exhaustion where he stood, unable to move. It seemed he was trying to drive himself, atoning for a non-existent guilt before the girl. Kakashi knew this state, he himself had once gone through it. Food and news about Sasuke. Naruto received information through Sakura, who followed him like a tail and made sure that her partner did not fall asleep in the most dangerous areas and did not fall into the water. Kakashi received information about Uzumaki from Haruno. Sasuke slept without regaining consciousness. She was restoring her strength to return home. Thanks to Sakura, Kakashi was able to learn all the details of the battle that took place on the bridge. Naruto used a strange technique, lifting all the attackers into the air with one wave of his hand, and then compressed them into a single lump, breaking metal and bone with a monstrous pressure force. He welded them together into a disgusting mess, howling in pain, threw them even higher and let go of his hand, allowing them to collapse and smash against the hard deck of the bridge. He approached the already dying, cold-bloodedly finishing them off with precise blows of a kunai. An atypical, unlike him cruelty, but the Nine-Tails chakra dissipated even before new enemies appeared. The picture turned out to be flawed, as if several pieces were missing from a puzzle, and without them it is impossible to understand what exactly is depicted. Another mystery is the Rinnegan, a mysterious Dijutsu about which almost nothing is known, rumored to have limitless power. The Eyes of God. Where did Naruto get them? How long ago did they awaken? What does he himself know about his abilities? And does he know anything at all? Both during the fight with Zabuza and during the massacre on the bridge, Naruto used techniques that Kakashi had never heard of before. It is noteworthy that he used them without the use of seals, but with voice commands, which means he did know something. But why did he wait so long then? Kakashi shook his head and left the house. It was time for a serious talk. Naruto, as expected, showed up at a construction site, diligently sawing off boards of the required length, after which he stacked them on a cart. His golden hair was soaked with sweat and hung down like sad icicles. His skin was covered with an even darker tan. Calluses appeared on his hands in places unusual for a shinobi. Without his favorite sweatshirt, thrown off because of the heat, he seemed smaller in weight and height from the outside. One could easily mistake him for a village urchin helping his father, a carpenter, at work. Who would have thought that in this child's body there lives a power capable, according to rumors, of destroying the entire world? Naruto, can I talk to you? Kakashi approached silently, froze 4 steps away, demonstrating with his whole posture that he would not accept refusal. The boy chuckled and put the saw aside. The two of them left the bridge and settled down on the river bank, hiding in the shadow of the dense tree thickets. The freshness of the river cooled their heated bodies and set them in a calm, peaceful mood. Enough of the fight. Both were exhausted from this mission. For a while, there was silence, broken only by the splash of water hitting the rocks. In the end, Uzumaki could not stand it anymore. I wanted to ask you, Sensei. The boy ran his fingers through his hair and ruffled his blonde hair. I saw your report for the Hokage. Why did you? Naruto hesitated. Didn't write anything about you having the Rinnegan? Kakashi came to the rescue. Yes. Should I have? The man looked at his comrade with interest, noticing the slightest changes in his facial expression. Naruto thought about his answer for a minute. Yes. They probably should have. Most likely, this information will have some significance for the village. Kakashi chuckled. Some significance was an overly diplomatic understatement. More like the effect of a bomb going off, the appearance of another Bijou in Konoha, the acceptance of a new powerful clan into their ranks. Tell me, Naruto. Kakashi chose his words carefully, taking his time. From the analysis of your fight from Sakura's words, I made one interesting assumption: you do not know how to control the Rinnegan. Either you acquired it very recently, or this Dijutsu turned out to be too complex for you to understand. Which option is correct? Where did you get it? What do you even know about the Rinnegan? The boy twitched his cheek and smiled crookedly. The blood of Indra and Azura. What? Rikudo Sanin had 2 sons, Indra and Azura. Indra's descendants are the Uchiha clan, Azura's are the Senju and Uzumaki. The only way to get the Rinnegan is to mix the blood of Indra and Azura. All that Naruto managed to extract from Kurama in a year and a half. There are some other conditions, but I don't know them. I got the Rinnegan when I swapped eyes with Sasuke. I don't know how to use it, I never really figured it out. In that fight. I don't know. Something clicked, the words came by themselves. I don't know if I can repeat something like that. I see. But if you got it, then that means Sasuke got it too? Kakashi looked closely at his student's face. How is she doing? Even worse. She can't even hold it. Naruto bit his lip. Can you help us? Kakashi shook his head. No, Naruto. I don't know anything about the Rinnegan's abilities, other than what's common knowledge. Control of all elements. Multiple summons. Control over Bijou. You know about the 9 tails inside you, right? You communicate? Sometimes. Uzumaki frowned. About what? It's personal, he said too harshly. Kakashi raised his hands up in a retreating gesture. He stood up from the grass and shook himself off. Rinnegan Naruto is a fairy tale. A legend that came from ancient times, overgrown with a huge number of rumors and speculations over the centuries. I did not write about your abilities in the report, because it is not my secret. You saved us all, so consider this my gratitude, the man smiled kindly. Besides, I do not think that this information should become public knowledge, and the reports are seen not only by the Hokage. I have already warned Sakura that she should keep silent about what she saw. However, I also believe that the fourth should know about this. Uzumaki remained silent, hypnotizing the river. Kakashi patted him on the head. I don't know why you dislike the fourth so much, but my advice to you is to talk to the Hokage. I heard that his teacher, one of the 3 legendary Sannin, once taught a child with the same abilities as you. No one in the world can tell you more about the Rinnegan than Jiraiya-sama, but he will only undertake to teach you under the patronage of the Hokage. He has very peculiar ideas about recruiting students. Naruto lowered his head and thought deeply. 2 days after the memorable conversation, Sasuke woke up, and a day later the construction of the bridge was completed. They returned home in oppressive silence. Kakashi carried Fiyu, who had not yet fully recovered, on his back. Sakura walked quietly next to him, occasionally glancing at her black-haired teammate. Naruto trudged along in the rearguard. At the gates of Konoha, he caught up, silently took the papers with the report from the commander, and went forward. Sakura jerked to catch up, but Hatake put his hand on her shoulder, holding her back. We can handle it, Sakura. Can go rest.